than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys.
Welcome to the South Texas TV studios. I'm your host, Brent Carter. Ash is out of town. That's why we had that technical glitch right there that involved the camera. If Ash had been here,
it would have been on
just
spot.
Simply would not have been a problem. We're going to be joined in just a very brief minute by Michael Atkinson. We're going to have a deep, in-depth discussion of what's going on in Russia, what's happening with the different players, give you an overview. Things this morning coming in, I was listening to the TSN, the Texas News.
Texas State Network.
They don't do so bad. They're not. They mean well. They seem mostly unbiased, and yet they spent twice as much time discussing the upcoming inquiry into the implosion of the Titan submarine that was going down to see the Titanic. Twice as much time discussing that as they did what's going on in Russia, which is just unheard of. 20 years ago, it would have been one of the world's last superpowers and don't push, just hit 3 and then wait.
Okay. Tell me when to hit cut.
I will. One of the world's last superpowers is in turmoil. They're embroiled. They've got 1.2 million military men. They're losing their skirts to Ukraine in a very lightly veiled Vietnam-esque type conflict in which the United States is propping up Ukraine to the tune of, I don't know, trillions of dollars now. The oligarchs there padding their pockets, waiting for their inevitable exit. Zelensky, no doubt, has a place on the French Riviera. He's got a place in Nice. He's got a flat in Paris. The things he needs as the U.S. drives Russia into the arms of China, loving on China. Now Mike and I don't necessarily share this opinion. I think he's pro-Ukraine, but I find myself being a student because he has direct ties. He knows folks. He has family from Russia. So we're going to visit with Michael Atkinson at length. I'm basically going to turn a portion of the program over to him and be a student like you because we ought to be informed. We ought to know what the country with as many nukes as we have is up to. We should know what's going on. It should matter. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. Junior, thank you for being here. Good morning, sir.
I appreciate it. I always enjoy coming on the air with you.
The folks at Deerland sent me a note and said, in no way are we affiliated with or involved with Junior Samples, but we understand freedom of speech.
I have that problem even with Linda.
Yes. I
don't know him.
Your wife, in fact, stood in solidarity with AT Deerland Feed. 79 degrees in Victoria. Listen to this one. It's going to be the same Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 79 heading to 101. And just unbearably, oppressively hot. So be aware that it is going to be hot in South Texas. Stay indoors if you can. Remember your pets. Hey, baby. Remember your pets. Zed's dog just came in here.
Cowboy just showed up.
He's wrapped up over here. There we go. We got a dog wrapped up in the cables. And
hello, Cowboy.
Please, no unattended pets in the studio. Great dog. It's
That's
a working
service dog, and I mean a service dog.
But it's going to be hot. Nothing but straight sun all day today. And that's the weather from AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. So, Junior, hit the cut button over there, and let's go. Let's introduce our friend Michael Atkinson.
Mike.
Good morning, sir. There's your microphone. You're hot.
Hey, good morning.
Well, let's say you're lukewarm.
He's cute at least.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that means a lot to him. It is hot in here.
He's like koala cute.
We're working on that, by the way. I want to give you folks I want to clarify that in the same breath that we have challenges, I am confident that my friend Bill Winland's working hard on this situation, and I'm confident that we're going to have resolution here pretty quick. It's just hot. And I don't know what you do with it. Let me do a quick roll call, let you know who you're talking to. There's Daniel Wade White, Judge Posey, Michelle Wilson-Hawkins, good morning, ma'am. Stuart Martin, Marvin Mickish, Will Vincent Jr., good morning, buddy. Justin Glass, Patricia Naigle. I think Patricia may be stopping by. If she does, that's awesome.
She was here last week on with Ralph.
Sure. no doubt.
Torn Bales.
Greg Garcia, Torrin Bales, Matt Boucher. There's your lovely wife, Linda. Scott
Good
Snow.
morning, Sugar.
And there's my buddy, Brent Goen. Good morning, Mr. Goen. Hope you're doing well. So, Michael, to the 30,000-foot level,
Okay.
kind of start as wherever you feel necessary and just kind of bring us up to speed on who the players are, why they had the interaction like that. This, I know they pronounce it Wagner, but the Wagner group that we've all come to know just of late.
We're in Texas. It's Wagner.
The Wagner group.
Yeah.
Why the Wagner group even had access to Moscow. How the Wagner group and Mr. Putin interact. Just take the floor and bring our folks up to speed.
Well, if you haven't been keeping up with the news, what you've had is a armed rebellion by a private military company in Russia. And there's a basis for what they did. They didn't do it just because they felt like it or they really wanted to take over the country. Wagner Group is a private military company. Now, it may seem a mystery as to how a private military company the size of Wagner can operate in a country like Russia where there's so much control over everything. Right. But the reason that they operate is, and you could compare them to, say, Blackwater.
Right.
But Blackwater to Wagner is like Tivoli to Houston. There's just no comparison. Blackwater doesn't have any tanks, doesn't have any aircraft, doesn't have any artillery, heavy equipment, or whatever. And they don't deal with the hundreds of millions of dollars that Wagner does. But the reason that they exist is to provide plausible deniability to the Russian government. In other words, if Russia has the Kremlin has some foreign objective they want to achieve, they don't want a bunch of Russians running around with Russian insignias on their equipment and their uniforms and so forth doing the dirty work. They want plausible deniability. You know, the Cubans used to do this for the old Soviet Union, but of course Cuba's doesn't have the horsepower to do much of that anymore and doesn't want to get involved in it. So what they did, they exist to do the Kremlin's dirty work, and they're in a number of countries around the world. I refer primarily to the Central African Republic because that's where the biggest operation is. They were utilized in Syria. Putin wanted to prop up his buddy Bashar al-Assad. And so he did that by sending Wagner down there with some Russian air support from their military. They took Palmyra. That was a big achievement and a big coming out for a major operation for Wagner. And from there, it's, well, okay, what else can we do? Well, let's see here. There's those oil fields over there. We want to preserve them as well. So, Wagner, you go over there and you grab those oil fields. There was like about 4 oil fields that they grabbed. And well, what did Wagner get out of it?
They're well-funded, well-paid, and well taken care of, correct?
25% of the action.
Right.
Okay. So we're over there, and we want Bashar al-Assad out. And we're supporting the Syrian rebels, and they're fighting Wagner. And so it gets to be a pretty interesting, sticky little situation for us and for them. But they've held their own, and Assad is still there. And you know what Bashar al-Assad is by education? An optometrist trained in England.
Really?
Yeah. So, interesting little thing. It's just like Kim Jong-un. He was educated in Switzerland, along with his sister. He gets a Western education. They know us. Why else would he be interested in American basketball?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
So flash forward to the events leading up to what would make, so you got a sweetheart deal. You're handling the gold mines. You're handling the oil fields. Your pockets are well lined. You're well funded. You've got backup from Big Brother if you need it. Putin, in theory, is an ally of yours if you're Wagner Group. Why? Yeah. What circumstances led the Wagner Group to roll into Moscow?
Okay. They were utilized in the war against the Ukraine, and they were allowed to operate around Bakhmut. That was their sector.
Right.
And so that's been in the news a lot about the Battle of Bakhmut, and our general talking heads over here don't seem to put much value in Bakhmut. They always wanted the Ukrainians to withdraw from it. because it was no strategic value. Well, okay, so it's got some gypsum mines nearby. But it was a grinder, a meat grinder for the Russians, because they were using human wave attacks against the Ukrainians, and they weren't doing very well at all. And Wagner, Prigozhin, being in charge of the Wagner Group, he's an oligarch. And we can get back into the history of him a little later on. But he believed that he was not getting the support from the Ministry of Defense.
Now, is this individual, Prigozhin, is he a military man? Am I picturing him as a big, powerful guy, or is he just a business dude? He's a bean counter.
He's a ex-criminal turned restaurateur, turned Putin chef, turned commissary for the Ministry of Defense, turned trusted Putin ally, allowed to develop and run this Wagner Group for the benefit of the Kremlin. That's how he's worked his way up.
And at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And he's a sharp guy. And I think that, and I'm going to use this word and some people may get very angry, he is a Russian patriot of his own type.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
He's an ultranationalist. I've always seen him as a potential replacement for Putin. He's perhaps that sharp, maybe, but you don't want him. You don't want him. He would press the war. He would, anyway, he would mobilize the entire country. He'd put under martial law.
His way of doing things is through military power.
Yeah, brute force. And Putin
he's
has
a serious Marxist.
Yes.
Well, if nothing else, he's a serious power monger, and his way of manipulating is not through strategic alliances financially. It's more through, you're going to do it my way. Here's the brute force of it.
Right. He supports the war.
Right.
He's for the invasion, but he's for winning. And Putin is kind of half-assing his way through this. He's trying to balance different forces because it's not just Putin at the top. That's at the end. Right. He's not in total control. He's in control, and he has strong influence. But he's not the only player.
You got the military generals.
He's got
and all
the military. He's got the oligarchy. He's got the public. You know, he came to power basically by telling the Russian people, okay, I'll provide you with a good economy and some degree of prosperity and future, but you leave the geopolitics to me. I'll run it on the world stage, and I'll keep things working at home for you. And by and large, he's pretty much done that in his own crude way. But back to the point, Prigozhin, who is the head of Wagner, he's the financier of Wagner, he feels that he's not being supported by the Russian military. And the guys at the top, Gerasimov, who is the chief of staff equivalent, and Shoigu, who is the minister of defense, these are the guys that make the decisions that direct the war. Of course, it's done with Putin's blessing to achieve Putin's goals, but they run the show. So his anger, his focus is on those two guys.
He's really upset with the Minister of Defense. I've read this.
Yeah. Right. And he has made numerous videos. He has really stepped over the line, in my opinion, but he had to do it. He had to believe that he could get away with it, that he had the authority, that he was in tight enough with Putin that he could do it, get the support, because his objective was not to overthrow Putin.
So it may be that Putin quietly doesn't like those two guys either. Feels like they're a threat to his power.
And you're talking about the Minister of Defense,
right? He may not be thrilled with the MOD, and he may be at least subliminally in cahoots with Wagner.
We don't know what Putin is being told about the war. Now, we know he's being fed information through those two guys. But he also has
We're doing great. It's like the VEDC. We're doing great. We're doing great. We're going to win next week. It's just a matter of time. We're going to have a McDonald's in Ukraine. We're winning. We're winning.
That's right.
As their troops are dying and defecting. And
I heard something about their troops and their equipment. The reason they're doing so bad is because they never maintained their equipment, and the tires are falling off of them because of
for lack of a nail, the shoe was lost.
That's right.
Well, I don't think that's much of a problem. But
there you go.
It's believe me, don't underestimate them to make a big mess.
So look,
Well, yeah.
this really is, if it's not riveting stuff to you, you're missing what's happening on the world stage. And I don't blame you for that, because the Main Street media doesn't take the time to really educate you on what's going on. So let's do this. We've been fortunate this morning. Ms. Patricia Naigle's come in. We're going to take a combination break and the Astros update with Patricia. Get you to step over here. Get Patricia to take that microphone. And let me tell you that the Astros update is brought to you by the great folks at First State Bank Louise. No better represented than with our friend Patricia Naigle, who's in studio. Astros dropped 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers in L.A., but it wasn't quite that bad. It was a little more complicated than that. On Saturday evening's game, our bud Ryan Stanek, in a game that was 7-7, runner at third for the Dodgers, Stanek gets called for a balk. I can't confirm necessarily, although none of the announcers nor the pundits on ESPN said, right there, that's where he balked, that's where he did it. The inference was, the statement was, that Stanek was on the rubber. Lots of things change, right? I can be on the mound and rub the ball. I can't be on the rubber and rub the ball. There's lots of rules in baseball that are there for various reasons, most of them to alleviate cheating. And Stanek was on the rubber, and there was a runner at third and I think a runner at first, and Stanek stepped off the rubber, which is a pitcher's prerogative. Throw in the fact that when you pitch from the stretch, you have to come set. You can't just throw the ball. You have to bring your hands together and be set for a body count, and then you can throw the ball. Stanek's hands were apart. He's standing there looking at the catcher. The catcher, Maldonado, must have said something like, look at the runner. So he stepped off the rubber. But before he did, and I can't show you this on camera, picture that he's standing there straight-legged, but his right knee went a little bit towards home, like he buckled his knee when he looked. That movement towards the plate was then deemed, when he stepped off, to create a balk, because it was designed to confuse the batter. Stanek went nuts, and rightfully so. Dusty Baker was also ejected. However, the umpire came out, the Dodgers runner was allowed to advance, and at the end of the game, it was 8-7 Dodgers. So it was what it was. Now, yesterday, Astros have a comfortable lead, been cruising the whole game. They bring in Montero, who Dusty Baker has acknowledged, hey, this guy's struggling. He's struggling, but we got to get him right, because he throws it 95, 97, 98. Hunter Brown had a great outing, 8 or 9 strikeouts. They bring in, at 4-1, they bring in Montero, who very quickly lets it become 4-4. Astros go on and win. I'm making up a number. I think they went 10 innings plus, I think 6-5 or 5-4. I don't know. Astros won. But it was like, meh. After that, it had gone from like, hey, we put it on you, to, no, we snuck out of here without getting swept. So the Astros go 1-2 in L.A. Key thing there to me, so the Astros beat the Dodgers in 2017, and what everybody says, oh, that was the tainted year. The Astros were cheating, but just as the Dodgers, Red Sox, Yankees were all doing. Every time Alex Bregman came to the plate, the entire stadium booed. And I thought to myself, you're just fueling the fire of the wrong cat, because Bregman wasn't even implicated in anything that happened in 17, but at the same time, he was part of the team. So at any rate, the Astros, I like it. I like the role of being hated. Do it. Hate us and watch us roll. Rangers still playing
my
good.
way of life.
The other day, Buck Showalter got thrown out of a game for the Rangers, but the Rangers are still playing pretty good baseball. Scott Tonko says, I think you lost Junior's interest. We're going to do this. I do want to change the camera back. There's Patricia. Say hi, ma'am.
Good morning.
Get a little closer. Don't be afraid of that microphone.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good. How are y'all?
We're doing very well.
Good.
We have obviously. I hope it's mutually beneficial. We've really enjoyed our relationship with First State Bank, Louise, and wanted to give you a chance to come in, just give people your quick spiel of what you want to say about the bank, and invite people to come on into the friendliest bank anywhere and open an account.
Sure. So we have a promotion going on right now for checking accounts, personal or business. You get a Bluetooth speaker if you come in and open an account with us. So we have that promotion probably for another 4 weeks, and then we'll have a new prize. I'm not sure what the new prize is yet, but it'll change.
A new car.
No, I don't know about
What
that.
happened to the toaster?
The toaster, I guess, is dated. You know, everybody wants the Bluetooth and technology, so yeah.
How about a tote bag?
A tote bag, I think there is a backpack, some kind of thing like
It's
that.
coming.
But
It's
we'll
going to be here.
Also want to talk about our new branch in Sugar Land is under construction. We hope that will be done by the end of August.
Do you know where every DPS trooper hangs out between here and Sugar Land these days?
Pretty much. I already know.
That's
but
right.
It's all good. So we'll be having a grand opening there, probably in September. Make sure everything comes in, furniture and everything. We're using Coastal Office products. So we use a lot of family-owned businesses. So,
awesome.
You know, just like your sponsors are and so forth. Also want to talk about land loans, people that are concerned about putting down payment and depleting their cash. We have a land loan product that you only put 15% down.
And you'll amortize it for 30 years,
Yes,
and
sir.
most people are going
Yes,
10,
sir.
15.
So the plan is by the time you build, you know, that might be paid off, or either you have it paid down and you have some equity there. So we redo that note. So that's a great product for us.
It's really a great thing for folks because a lot of places you're going in, you're having to put down, say, 30%. They'll only, so you're going to buy a $50,000 lot, you got to put 15 grand down, and they're only going to let you pay it off over the next 10 years. Right. It can become prohibitive, but if you have a long-term play and you can put down 20%, 15%,
15's the minimum.
So now you put down $7,500 and you finance it for 30 years. The payment's an afterthought.
Right. The other thing I want to talk about on most of our deposit services, they're like our remote deposit. You get the scanner and everything at no charge. So if you're paying service fees for a business account, please come see us. You know, everything's getting expensive. That's a good way for us to save. And the other thing is, of course, Lolly Hamilton is our branch manager.
She's awesome.
She's been there a long time, all about customer service. We have Darren Drake, who is our mortgage officer there from Refugio, hometown roots, and so forth. And then we have Race Jenkins, who is from El Campo, that is helping us out in Victoria with commercial and also ag lending. And then I'm splitting time between Victoria and Sugar Land. But you have local people that are here fulfilling your needs and know how important customer service and the friendliest bank anywhere is.
The branch right here in Victoria is at Stockbauer and Salem Road. It's the beautiful bank. It's right on the southwest corner of that intersection. If you get up there right across from Parkway Church, get up there and visit with Lolly. Just go in and say, "Where's Lolly?"
That's a great name.
They will find her. I want to get her that deal.
Lolly.
I want to get that deal where I forgot what the other phrase is. It's one of the ladies in our office says, "I hate it when people accuse me of lollygagging when I'm clearly something else."
Twitter painting.
Right. You know, lazing around. Lolly is a sweetheart, and by the way, very, very professional, very learned. Get in there and ask them for whatever your needs are. And it's a funny thing, right? Anybody can make you a loan, but all banks are not the same. The way you interact with the staff, the way the staff reaches out to you, is it's just different at First State Bank Louise. So get in there and say hi to those folks. We appreciate you coming by. You're welcome anytime.
Absolutely.
And
good deal. Y'all have a great
we hope
great
you have
day.
a great day.
We're
going to
get
back.
you.
We're kind of hammering on Russia and what's going on with that, but hope you have a great day. You traveling today?
No, I'm in Victoria today.
There you go. Well, have a good one and be safe. There you go. That was Patricia Naigle. We've been talking about her for months, so we're glad that she got to come by.
It's nice to see you put the face to a name.
Absolutely. Nice lady. Very smart lady and a long-time banker.
Well, I can tell you from over 52 years of banking, it's great to do business with a local bank.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Especially when they can meet your needs. And there's
That's
a lot
right.
of, First National Bank of Shiner might not quite be able to pull it off, but some of, some
but
of
you
them
get
can.
a cold beer every time you go in there.
There you go. They got a tap.
I'm telling you.
So jump back in. Let's get back. I told Michael coming in, and he's completely vetted with me, right, on so many levels. But I'm telling you that he can go back to pre-fall of Russia, of the USSR, and bring you up to speed on how we got to where we are. But if you're willing for a minute to accept that we are where we are, then Michael can help you put the pieces together in your head. For example, where do you think we go from here? What do you think is to me, what's our guy's name?
Prigozhin.
He's dead. He just doesn't know it yet. I think he has spit on the emperor. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to be lured down a dark alley, and even though he may have lots of money in his pockets, he's going to disappear.
Nah, he'll get a radioactive BB.
Yeah, or they'll introduce him to Hillary Clinton. Either way, he's a goner.
Hey, let's talk about hometown, keeping it at home.
He may be able to go with some concrete shoes to investigate the Titanic.
Nah, she's a two-in-the-head kind of gal.
Well, that's the easy answer.
Sure.
And I think it's perhaps the obvious answer. I hear the term in the news media used, they throw it around a lot, exiled. Oh, he's been exiled.
Exiled.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, he took the money and left.
If he were being exiled, he'd be sent to an island off the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Pacific.
Patmos, the Isle of Patmos.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. But no.
What happened to good old Siberia,
He's over in Belarus. Now, by the way, he has not been seen since those pictures were taken in Rostov-on-the-Don. And you need to keep in mind that he is something of a hero in Russia. He has internet programs and information that is flowing out through the Russian internet. And don't forget, he was involved in the treachery to do in Trump. Wagner Group was involved in that.
Yeah, I'll be danged. I did not know that.
So this guy has a presence. And the Russian people know who he is. And one of the reasons I think he could take some of the risks he was taking by talking the way he was and criticizing the military establishment, he was very careful to dance around Putin. Very careful. Because Putin's his friend, and he knows that he's got to keep him happy anyway.
Right.
But nevertheless, the guy is well known. And you saw the people walking up to the vehicle and reaching to the window and shaking his hands, and he was more than happy to receive him.
So the West, those of us are the unwashed, honestly, ignorant, such as myself, they may say, boy, this guy's in trouble with Putin. But the Russians, the insiders, the people in the country, they may be saying, thank goodness Wagner's here. Now Vlad can get done what Vlad needs to get done, right? Do you think the Russian people are upset with the Minister of Defense and what's going on in Ukraine?
I think they're getting tired of the war. I really do.
Why does Russia want Ukraine? Why do they really care? Why not just let them go? They were already gone.
Well, there's several reasons for it. Number one is Putin wants to recreate the old Soviet Union.
Right. Which, of course, is not going to happen.
That's the quick and easy answer, and that's the narrative that he has sold to the Russian people. NATO's a threat. The Ukrainians are a bunch of neo-Nazis. They're crazy. They're supported by the Americans. They're a threat to us. It's existential. We've got to knock them off. We've got to control them, see? And so the Russian people look at the Ukrainians like second-class citizens anyway.
Well, couldn't it be also that they have a lot of nuclear power plants over there, too? And it would help. They could sell that electricity.
Okay, now you're talking about ZDPP,
right?
The largest nuclear plant in Europe,
right?
There's discussion about the Russians blowing that up before they leave.
Oh, wow. That would be
just
nice.
like they blew up the dam.
So it ended up being like Chernobyl over there. That area would be just damaged.
It's possible, but that's politically a very bad thing to do on the world stage, and it also creates a mess for the Russians as well. So that may not be a good idea. But who knows what's lurking in their heads? You know, they have their perspective, and I have mine, what limited as it is. But to kind of get back to the point, Prigozhin's effort is focused on getting rid of Gerasimov and Shoigu. He wants to get rid of those two because he knows that the war is not going well for the Russians, and he's been talking about it more and more. In fact, he's even criticized the reason for invading the Ukraine. He says, basically, this is to help the oligarchs. So let's pose a question. What is the third largest oil and gas field in Europe? Number one is Russia. Number two is the North Sea. And number three is that area that's been invaded by the Russians, the eastern part of Ukraine. And also there's another oil field that is southwest off the Crimea. It's an offshore deposit. Then there's another one over in the southwest part of the country. Now, that is that rivals Russia's situation with their reserves. Okay.
Is that why the U.S. is so strongly involved with Ukraine? Is the oil?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's more geopolitical than anything else. When NATO was formed, the idea was that the Ukraine would be a buffer. It'd be a bridge between East and West, that there needed to be some space. The U.S. has got the Atlantic and the Pacific. Well, but if you stand on the North Pole and you look down, say, straight down towards Moscow, and you look to the left, you see China, Japan, you see countries that have invaded Russia from that side. You look straight down, you see the Caucasus, you see Turkey, you see more enemies that have invaded. You look around to the right, and you see Finland, Sweden, Poland, Germany, France, Italy. You see invaders, okay? And there's no natural barrier that's there. They don't have an ocean. So they need that space and to feel secure, because they've invaded so many times. They have a very bloody history. Yes. And the Russian people know this. It's drilled into them. I've seen situations where in the public schools in Russia, the old World War II veterans would come and they would spend a day talking about the Great War to the school children to help them to be knowledgeable about the threat. Too bad we don't do the same thing over here. We're not that interested in history. But anyway, the point is that there's a geopolitical side to it of we need the buffer, we need the space. There is the economic side of it, okay? Now, the Ukraine had been causing, allegedly, some problems about pumping gas through and all, but not getting to Europe and so forth. Pipelines have been built around the Ukraine. That's Nord Stream. It goes through Belarus and across the Baltic and so forth, and we know the history of that. So that was to get around the Ukraine. But those oil fields, those resources are what's critical. That's what's critical. And Putin used the Russian people who were living in eastern Ukraine. He incited them to rebel against Ukraine so that he would have an excuse to come in. This is the same thing that Hitler did in Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You had ethnic Germans living in Czechoslovakia. They became a predicate to put pressure on Czechoslovakia and eventually to invade it. And that's a whole nother story. But you can go all over Europe, and everywhere there's a border drawn, there's people from both countries living on both sides.
Right.
Because the border's been redrawn many, many times over hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
So those ethnic differences are very easy to play on. Putin played on that. And he told the Russian people, well, I'm here to help your brother Russians that are being oppressed in the Ukraine. So there's the side that's presented to the Russian public, and then there's reality. And the reality is geopolitics and economics. And think of this. Russia does not want the Ukraine to develop economically. Remember, the difference between Ukraine and Russia is fundamentally this. Russia is an oligarchy with no democracy. The Ukraine was an oligarchy with a democracy. That's how they got Zelensky into power.
So Zelensky's making a cut off everything, but there's free trade and capitalism.
Well, I don't know that he is. He may be. He has eliminated some of his top leadership because they were corrupt. And yet stop and ask yourself a question. When all this began, the Biden administration reached out to the Ukraine, to Zelensky, and said, hey, we'll help you out. We'll give you an airplane. We'll pick you up and take you out. And he said, I don't need a lift. I need ammunition.
Right.
I need weapons.
Yeah.
Now, a guy who's corrupt doesn't say things like that. You don't say things like that because he's putting himself at considerable risk to do what he did. And he's gone out to the front. He's been with the soldiers. He's stuck with the country.
Right.
He's been a patriot.
Well, I've noticed that he didn't break and run when this war came. He's stuck in there.
He didn't. And this is one of the reasons that I support the Ukraine is because how many allies have we had through our lifetime that really stuck with us, that said, hey, we'll go do the fighting, we'll shed the blood, we'll take the risk, we just need assistance, we need weapons.
Well, let's see. Osama bin Laden, no. Fidel, no. Noriega, no, probably not. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. The Shah, no, not really.
Well, we supported those cats because they were against our enemies.
Yeah, the enemy of our enemy is our friend.
Right.
Exactly.
None more ruthless probably than the Shah. He was just.
It
Well,
doesn't
hold
take,
it now. But have you seen pictures of Iran when the Shah was in charge?
Compared to now?
Yeah,
Yeah, the women were more empowered. And
Yeah,
able to do
and
what
they could go to college. They could do everything. So, before we give the Shah of Iran a bad rap, he had more freedoms for the people in Iran.
He killed
Then the
indiscriminately.
Ayatollah came in.
One of my customers in Houston who made jewelry cases for high-end jewelry stores and so forth, he was the woodworker, cabinet maker for the Shah. And he could tell all kinds of stories that essentially when the Shah was deposed, they went backwards. They went backwards.
Yeah. Adam Shigart, remember I told you
too fast.
30,000-foot view. Here's one from Adam Shigart. It says Russia's fighting the Ukraine because Ukraine became dirty with the Bidens. The U.S. would fight Mexico if Mexico was dirty with Putin.
That's just illogical. That doesn't make any sense.
I'll let
at
you
all.
deal with Adam on that. Adam, please. The opinions of Michael Atkinson do not necessarily reflect those of the Wade Corner program, and we do not have Kevlar.
There was a lot of talk
Hey, listen to the fine print.
There was a lot of talk about they're going into the Ukraine to clean up a bunch of dirty stuff going on in the Ukraine.
Yes.
Because of the human trafficking and the sex trade being absolutely horrible. So is that a possibility that they're in there to possibly clean up the ugly of Ukraine? Because, I mean, that's where everybody took their money to launder it.
Well, that's one of the places
Joe
they
Biden.
took it. You're going to find corruption everywhere.
Oh, of course.
It's just going to be worse in some.
Not
places.
here, by
epicenter.
golly. Not in the good old USA.
Not in Victoria, Texas.
No way.
Well,
By the way, we'll delve into the city of Victoria sponsoring a pride parade here pretty quick. I want to know
Absolutely.
what activities were there for women, for kids and adults. Take us where you think this is going, and what prognosticate, sir. Tell us what's going to happen. See the future.
that's very difficult
Be-
to do.
be
However,
your future.
I'll toss a little bait in the pond and see what comes in. I mentioned that Prigozhin has not been seen since Rostov-on-the-Don. The question is, where is he? If I were him, and I know about this much, okay, I don't have his perspective. I don't wear his boots. He's a pretty sharp character. I would find some way to get out of Russia completely and down to the Central African Republic, because one of the things that the Wagner Group does as a front for the Kremlin, they went down and took over the Central African Republic. And they told the leader down there, well, hey, you're set up, you're fixed for life. Shut up and move over. We'll put you in a new house. We'll give you a Mercedes. You can be the figurehead, and you can live the life of what you ever dreamed. We're taking over the gold mine, and we're taking over the lumber trade. And so Wagner Group went down there. They supply the police force, and they supply the military. They
So
are the
crime
military.
goes
They are the
away.
military, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a safe place to live.
That's right. That's right. Just
Everybody's happy.
Just play with us, and there won't be any 9mm cranial injections.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, hey, the guy was crazy not to take it. Of
So
course,
he
why
could go
not?
there and live happily ever
He
after
could go down
as well.
there, take over the gold mining operation. He would be a little more difficult to get to. He'd have a source of revenue, and he could continue to exist, and he could continue to threaten Putin. Because what happens is that gold mine is there for a purpose. You know, we put all these sanctions in, and we've limited their ability to transfer money and so forth and so on. Well, what happens is they've gone down there, they've mechanized the mine, they built a processing plant, and every week a plane leaves from Central African Republic with a load of gold. And it goes to Damascus, and it parks next to a plane from Russia. They transfer the gold, and the plane flies from Damascus to Moscow. So it's a way that Putin finances the war. Now, if you go and you cut the head off of the Wagner Group, who's going to take over? Well,
Right.
there's lieutenants that are running the show. You can coerce them or make them promises or whatever, and you can do it. But Wagner is a large operation. They have a big glass office building in St. Petersburg. These guys are big.
So it's better to make peace with him or keep the peace with him and find a way to make it roll
Allow
on.
him to exist, recognize what he did. Something else, too. Now, Gerasimov and Shogu disappeared, too, but I realized I read a few hours ago that Shogu's reappeared. He flew down to inspect some troops and so forth. A lot of this, of course, revolves around the head guy. You know, the fish stinks from the head down.
Right.
And how cognizant is Putin really of the war? You see, when you get into these situations where everything is so corrupt, if you've never been in Russia, you don't know corruption, because Russia is systemic corruption. It's the way things are done.
Kind of like Chicago?
Worse. Worse.
Wow.
I mean, and the Russian mafia, they're easy to spot. They're driving the expensive vehicles right down the center turn lane of the street. Okay, no medians for them. They own the joint. And you can see that if you run a business, say in a mall, it's a high-end clothing store, jewelry store, whatever, there's always a guy standing by the door with a lump in his pocket. He's wearing a suit and sunglasses, and that's because that place, well, you know, it needs protection. It needs protection, right. So they're getting a slice of the action. And the Russian mafia is overt. They're in your face.
They want you to be afraid.
Yes. They do not cut a low profile at all.
That's kind of that deal of, I didn't need protection until y'all showed up.
Right.
Like, that's exactly
Now, who do
right.
I need
But you
protection
do
from?
need protection.
Right. There's all kinds of things that could happen, you know.
My wife has an interesting point. She says, what about the biolabs and the money laundering situation over there? Could that be something that they're after, especially the biolabs?
I don't know about biolabs in the Ukraine or Russia. I'm sure that some probably exist for the medical industry in those countries. I don't think it's something that the rest of the world would want to get involved in. Of course, Fauci did get us involved with China.
Right.
Because the Chinese, you know, Mike, you'll eat anything. Well, the Chinese will do anything.
Yeah.
If they can take it and militarize it, the PLA is interested.
Yeah, kind of like Cuba.
And, you know, it really doesn't make any difference if the Chinese, if they did what they did through negligence or through deliberation, they're still 100% responsible.
Yep.
Yeah,
Where we play into is
agree.
where Fauci gave them the job and handed them the money to do it.
We've pointed out here on the program that once again, Donald Trump said this was China, pure and simple.
Absolutely.
And yet, you know, 2 years later, it's like the Chinese, the head of the CDC in China says, well, we can't be sure that it wasn't a leak from the lab.
Right.
Trump
Well-
told you what it was way back when.
Yeah.
And he was castigated for it, and he turns out to
Absolutely.
be right. But nevertheless, we'll prosecute him and throw him in the can because
Hunter's
we don't have to
laptop
run
and
against
all
him
that.
again.
Right.
But anyway, we're getting way off the subject. I guess I went down that rabbit trail.
Well, that's fine, though. What I'd like for you to do, if you don't mind, it's 45 after the hour. We've got a couple more things to talk about. If you don't mind, because I know, so those of you that don't know, Michael's wife is Russian, or what, she's probably a citizen now.
No. She is a Russian citizen today.
There she is. So his
But
code name is
understand.
Boris. What's
Yeah.
her code name? What's the on the
Natasha.
card? Natasha. We call her Natasha.
Yes, that Boris.
But understand, we have no communication with Russia concerning the war. We do not talk about it over the phone lines, the internet, or whatever.
Right.
There's just no discussion of that. She communicates with her family, her mother.
Are they
and
scared?
her brother.
If not about this, in general?
I don't know if they know enough to be scared.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
No doubt the government controls the dissemination
Yes.
of
Yes.
All the
power,
information.
of information. And by the way, that's what's happening here, too. That's what's starting to happen in our own country.
Putin held a meeting here, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago with the military bloggers in Russia. And you've got bloggers that are out there saying all kinds of things, but the idea was to get the bloggers that are more favorable towards the government position and get them on board and feed them information so they can control the information space. You see, that information space is where Prigozhin has used an advantage that he has to get the message across to the people. So if the war turns out to be a failure, Prigozhin could turn out to be the hero who was warning the Russian people that this was going to happen. Now, if he gets knocked off, does he become a martyr?
Right.
You know, what happens here?
No,
Putin-
I'm going to tell you right now, he won't be a martyr because they're going to strike up some crap on him and turn him into public enemy number one.
Well, we'll see. I'm
That's gonna
starting
be a
to lean
stretch.
towards Michael saying, get him down there, and he'll keep sending the gold.
Yeah.
Putin will still.
Yeah.
Putin's greedy. What's Putin worth, honestly, besides billions? It's got to be billions.
Do you know how he got it? I can't tell you. He could be the richest man in the world. But here's how he got it. He was Yeltsin's right-hand man. He was a trusted individual who was brought in, and when Yeltsin, who was an alcoholic and stumbling, bumbling guy, but he had some good ideas. He wasn't all wrong. Putin assumes power. He assumes power with the blessing of the Slaviki, or the oligarchs, okay? And the oligarchs, people who control, say one guy controls the steel industry, another guy controls aircraft production, another guy controls transportation, whatever, okay? And this goes way back into the Stalin years, but nevertheless, these guys thought, okay, Putin is an okay guy. Yeah, we'll take him. He seems more sensible, more reasonable. So, having come up through the KGB, Putin knew everybody. He knew the system. He knew the centers of power, and he had influence with them. And so now he becomes the president. Well, he reinforces those relationships. If it's the Russian IRS, he's got a relationship there. So what he does in order to consolidate his power, he has to be concerned about these oligarchs and what they might could do to him. So he brings them into a big conference, and he's sitting there, his gun's loaded, and he's waiting, and he lets them sound off, and the wealthiest, most powerful one of the bunch shoots off his mouth, and Putin is right there to put the squeeze on him, and he basically chews the guy out in front of everybody else. Okay, well, everybody breathes a sigh of relief and thinks it's over. No.
You're next.
Because he sent the Russian IRS after the guy, and of course you're gonna find corruption. It's there. It's the system and how it works. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. But it's so easy. You don't have to invent the crime. It's there. Okay. So they brought this guy in. They put him on trial, and they put you in a cage or a glass box. They put him in a cage, and all the cameras pointed at him. And so you just look guilty. Well, of course they find him guilty, and they take all of his stuff, put him away.
Putin looks like a man of the people, solving the problem.
That's right. He's the good guy.
Number one.
So what he does, well, the oligarchs start sweating. They're worried. Could I be next?
Yeah.
So they come in to talk to Putin, either one by one or in a group. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
20%
and he says, I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. I'll let you have your oligarchy, but you're going to give me half of everything.
Oh, yeah.
So he takes half of everything the oligarchs have. Now, he leaves them in control of it because somebody's got to run the operation, you see. But now they're in a situation, they're in a vice where they got to be successful to keep money flowing to Putin, to make him wealthy. They've got to be obedient to Putin. So he gets the rope around their neck, and that's how he got the money.
Wow.
That's how he got the wealth.
Gosh, it sounds awful familiar.
Sounds like the Bidens to me.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much. Let's do this. Let us diverge off for the last 15 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Keep following this. You're our reporter on the street.
Okay.
And by the way, folks, I hope you've benefited from this. I know I have. Just to understand a little bit of the background and a lot of what's going on. So I'm not convinced that now the Wagner Group head, say his name again, Prigozhin. I'm not sure he's going to die. Junior seems to think he's going to disappear.
He's a goner.
But I think there's a chance that it might be he might be manageable.
There's one thing I didn't mention.
Tell us.
And that was the fact about a month ago, the Russian Ministry of Defense issued an order that all private military companies must register with the state, and they must become a part of the Russian military establishment. All the other ones that were little did, but Wagner did not. And that was the final tripwire that precipitated this. It was initially the situation where they're not supplying me, and I'm blaming Shoigu and Gerasimov.
Right.
And that's why we're losing the war. We're not doing well. But when the Ministry of Defense, I think at Putin's direction, said, okay, it's time to cut these guys off. You got to register. He said no, and it was either register and give it all up or put up a fight. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
He put up the fight.
And he won.
In a sense.
Yeah.
In a sense, he did, because he got a lot of political mileage out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. We'll plan on you coming back to bring us up to speed.
Okay.
And
right. Me, not so much. Probably not.
Yeah, Junior's out. But
well, I'd like to go into I'd like to go back to 1989 and 1990 and just give the history up to the present, because when you see it in the overall arc of history, it makes a lot more sense, and all the conspiracy theories go out the window.
If I could go back to 89, I could have avoided that first marriage.
Well, no, I was already married by then.
Man. Of course, back then, Dawn was only like 7.
Yeah, well,
hindsight's 20/20.
You could have drove by in your 79.
If I was from Scranton, her being 7 wouldn't be that big a deal. So, Michael Atkinson, thank you for your time. Hit cut right there. We're going to go. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on what's going on. Speaking of breakups, first marriage. Palace Bingo buddy. This Thursday night. Palace Bingo, Friends Meet Friends. It's Wade and Carter night at Palace Bingo.
I will be there.
Be there by 7 o'clock. I'm sorry. I apologize. Junior will probably be in attendance.
Hey, I'm bringing my entourage.
There you go. That means Linda and cheeseburger money.
That's right.
Be at Palace Bingo. Allen's Record Service, the VCS companies, Chesnick Furniture Company, and Veracruz all very proudly help bring you this valuable information that you just don't get at other places.
Good Mexican
These are
food.
locally owned, family-run businesses, multiple generations in each. The Gray Barn Mercantile. Reach out to Cheryl for all your decorating needs.
That place is really neat.
Atzenhofer since 1926. Chevy's, the consistent leader in the marketplace. They also have Mitsubishi and Mazda. Steve Kidder for all your legal needs. If you have a contract, if you want to adopt a baby, if you want to get rid of that first wife, reach out to Steve Kidder. Ladies, get rid of your husband. I'm an equal opportunity
Best weight loss program in the world.
offender. Reach out to Steve Kidder.
Ugly fat.
AJ's Detailing. I went by there the other day. He had 2 black cars. One was a BMW M5 Competition, very nice car. The other was a black Ford Raptor, and he had taken, you can put a light up, and you can see all the swirls and imperfections in the paint, and he showed me a part that he hadn't done. The car looked beautiful, but I'm looking at it. It was clean. He says, look, see the paint? He goes, now look at this. And when he put the light over there, it was just black. It was like looking into a pool. It was like looking into Wilma's eyes, just puddles of ebony.
I took my truck over there to him, and he went, nope.
Yeah, I understand. Armor Air 579-0966. Let the folks at Armor Air help you.
The official air conditioner of Junior Samples.
There you go. White Trash Services, 550-1826. The great folks, the Nelson family, the great folks at White Trash Services want to be your
trash.
Weekly, monthly roll-off dumpster demolition services. Call them. If you call, they answer the phone. White Trash Services and Demo. Give them a call, 550-1826. USA Concrete Coating, Charlie Garcia. Call them at 578-HOME.
We will be putting pictures on the website.
I can't wait for that, and we'll share them on the Wade and Carter page so you can see what Charlie can do. And then Went Services, of course, for all your backup generator needs. If you need a whole house generator, Went Services can come out, quote you a price for installation. You can buy a whole house generator for under $6,000. Reach out to Went today. Did you see where this, I just call her KGP, the White House spokesperson.
Oh, yeah.
The other day, she lost the media room. Now, I want you to think about how hard that is to do. You've got a Main Street media that's 100% in bed with Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
100%. They're 100% behind everything the Democrats do. And even they are frustrated with the lack of information coming out of the White House. One of the reporters asked a solid question and just said, hey, we find it interesting that Joe Biden has invited Hunter to the next state dinner. And apparently there's something coming up, a function at the White House, and Joe invited Hunter. And this lady said, well, I don't really want to get into that. That's a family matter. Oh, okay. But
the state's paying for his meal.
Well, and it's not even just that. It's the guy goes on and says, well, okay, well, let me just ask you a different way. If Hunter wasn't family, would the president be inviting a man who just pled guilty to a, obviously downplayed charge and involved weapons and narcotics and,
That's my boy.
And she goes off again. I'm just not prepared to talk about that. That's his son. He loves him. It's a family matter. And the media just basically said, boo. They said, boo, you're disingenuous. You're a liar.
Yeah.
And
we saw it from the beginning.
I don't understand the lack of bipartisan unilateral outrage at the Biden administration. These same well-meaning Americans who were so upset about Donald Trump having his children and in-laws working in his administration, working, by the way, working in administration, they've got no problem with Hunter Biden. I want to read you something that was gleaned off of Hunter's laptop. Junior, I haven't even shared this with you. No doubt Michael Atkinson already knows this. This came from the FBI in conjunction with the IRS. So if you're going to believe in the government, if you're a leftist Marxist, these are your guys, right? You're 87,000 strong. Let's add more of them.
The government.
Here is a quote from a communication on WhatsApp between Hunter Biden and his contact in the CCP. This is the Chinese Communist Party. I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment has not been fulfilled.
That means the check hasn't showed up yet.
To the big guy. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction.
I did hear about this.
I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. If you don't feel as an American that crackhead, I mean it, I'm going to hold a grudge. If you don't feel as an American that crackhead invoked his father's name.
He did it.
And literally puts our country, our national security at risk by threatening a high-ranking officer in the CCP, then you're not American. I don't care what party you vote for. I don't care how you feel about civil rights. I don't care if you want gay people in Seattle riding naked on their bikes in pride parades. Grown men, just this weekend, naked on bicycles, publicly exposing all of themselves, none of which were attractive men. I've decided I'm way too good looking to be LGBTQ.
There's an old nursing phrase. It's always the ones you don't want to see.
Absolutely. I don't care if you're all for that. Oh, let them expose their genitalia to the little kids on the parade route.
That is just wrong.
Which, by the way, is just wrong. It would get you arrested, thank God, in Victoria, Texas.
Maybe we ought to go up there next year with BB guns.
How can you stand by and just accept that Hunter Biden, if not extorting, was doing his father's bidding and his bidding with all the leverage of the United States government on his illegal dealings?
Blatantly.
It's there. It's his quote. But let's invite him to the White House for the next state dinner. And then I don't know why KGP didn't just say, every family's got their black sheep, but we're doing all we can with Hunter. Why not?
But see, the deal is, when you got a child that's that bad, you distance yourself from him. He's embracing this cat.
Cody Bauman suggests we get paintball guns. My Aunt Betty says Hunter's presence at state dinner gives horrible impression to the world leaders. But remember Biden said, I'm proud of my son. I have a theory that Biden still believes that Hunter is his son that he said died
in Vietnam.
Right, who actually died of cancer in the United States.
Right.
Totally different story, but that's just Hunter. I mean, that's just Joe. Unbelievable. The other thing that really comes around to me is that Biden, when they first started probing, he made one of his emphatic, all-encompassing, no wiggle room comments that from Joe, historically, are lies. Top third of my law school class.
He's been known for plagiarism.
Yeah, he's known for that. He's known for saying, come on, Jack, everybody knows marriage is between a man and a
the hair
woman.
on my legs?
I'm a good Catholic. See you at the abortion clinic.
Yeah.
So the problem I've got with Joe is he makes all these emphatic statements. And then, yes, Brian Small, I was yelling. I hate
What do you think I'm wearing here? These.
the Biden regime. And it bothers me that educated people don't. That bothers me. At the end of the day, Biden is complicit in everything, if not involved, head over heels involved. He's complicit with knowledge of everything his son Hunter has done.
Well, nobody with any power wants to say anything because they've got pictures of them with Bill Clinton down on Horny Island. And if they say anything, they're going to have the pictures brought up and they're going to get in trouble.
To me, the parallels, the chaotic parallels, because everybody on the world stage, somewhere in Russia right now, although they have no free bandwidth on which to talk, is hosting a radio program exposing these exact same facts, making people in Russia feel the way about us that we feel about Putin and his regime. Because we are a joke. We are a laughingstock to the world. We are an embarrassment to the concept that was laid forward by our forefathers. The embarrassing thing of the constant threats of impeachment, the fact that there are so many people that are impeachment worthy, the fact that our border is an open sieve, the fact that we have nothing. It's just amazing. And you have got to see, in a lot of ways, it's all coming right down on South Texas. It is. I don't know what we're going to do long term. I know that it is just wrong. Something's going to happen.
Well, we've got to get some of our rhinos out. I mean, not some of them, all of them. We need to start with Texas. Zed Stewart said something very interesting this morning on the Posey Show. He says, we've got to get control of our county politicians because that's where the roots are.
Well, that's right. He says, hey, you want a conservative state government, you got to have a conservative local government. You want a conservative federal government, you got to have a conservative state government. Folks, I encourage you, if you've ever thought about running for office,
there's only a few weeks left.
Don't. Have a great day. We love you. I'll talk to you in the morning.
Brent.
Bye, folks.
Messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing.